All right, so I just watched the new Furiosa movie, and I think I'm just gonna make a couple quick observations on the themes behind it. Um, Obviously, people are getting woke. If you got eyes to see, you can see. Once you learn how to read the language of the elites of Hollywood, then you can see the subtle satanic messages, within it. First of all, there's, I don't know, 30 minutes in, 20 minutes in, something like that. There's the symbolism of satanic sacrifice. You got the guy with the horns, and Furiosa's mother's on a I don't know if it's a cross or an X, but she's hung up to be tortured or whatever, which is symbolic of sacrifice, which is ancient Satanism crap. Any civilization that ever got into the occult, got deep into Satanism, it always ends up in sacrifice. Go back to all the ancient civilizations, all the pagan civilizations, quote unquote pagan, which really just means not Christian, but it's, they have their gods, right? The Incas, Aztecs, they did it like crazy. Ancient Babylonians, Egyptians, etc. They all do it, right? And then you get into, uh, you know, civilizations that, or I should say, movements that are satanic, such as communist movements and all these other movements. It's all about death. It always equals this massive amounts of death because that's what Satan is all about. He hates mankind and he wants to see death. And satanic sacrifice is kind of a pagan ritual, sort of a, it's inspired by demons, right? And it's something that is uh, basically, kind of a anti God sort of worship. Satan likes to copy things that God does. God wants to live inside of man. God wants to, um, you know, impart his divinity into man. Man is a vessel. This is all throughout the Bible, right? So Satan kind of does the same thing with his transhumanism, with his, if you study the Kabbalah, it's all about like, getting powers from the stars or powers from the other side. If you study the occult, it's all about channeling demonic spirits and powers, etc., to empower you and all this sick stuff. So it's like it mirrors Christianity. Satan likes to copy and he likes to mock and he likes to hide things in plain sight. So which is all about what Hollywood is because it's run by Satanists. Satanists run Hollywood. So naturally their symbolism is going to be within it. So you have this movie Furiosa. 20 minutes in, you got a satanic torture scene, which torture slash sacrifice is part of their occult worship. Where do all the kids go every year? All these missing kids, all these missing homeless people. People just end up missing. All around the world, millions of people just are missing. Where did they go? Like, they didn't just disappear. They weren't abducted by aliens. They're abducted and kidnapped, tortured, and killed by the occult. Sorry to say, it's sick, and it just is what it is. So there's some symbolism hidden there. Why else would the guy be wearing goats or ram's horns? The goat is the satanic symbol for Satan. That's just straight out of the satanic church or whatever, the satanic occult Satan worship. The goat's head. The guy's got goat's horns and he's sacrificing Furiosa's mom, right? Okay, so let's move on. I mean, the movie's all about this girl, Furiosa, blah, blah, blah. It's a decent movie as far as, I mean, there's a lot of plot holes. It's not a great film as far as writing is concerned. It's cool in the sense that it's visual, and a lot of people are always dumb people are just taken aback by that. Wow, look at all the cool visuals. I mean, there's some cool fight scenes, that pretty darn cool, as far as Hollywood is concerned, as far as movies are concerned. But that's it. That's all it's got to offer. It's just oh, revenge. This guy killed my mother, and I'm gonna go back and revenge. But it has these hidden themes in it, and one of the hidden themes also is what's his name? Immortal Joe. He's the ruler of the Citadel or whatever area, and he's got these women. He's got these his little harem of women, which is not uncommon historically for men to have, for powerful rulers to have harems of women, which is understandable given, and I'm not excusing it. It's not righteous. It's wrong, obviously. But when men get power, what do they want? They want women. Why? Because power attracts women, and power acquires women. Wealth, fame acquires women. Is it men's fault that this is the way it is? No, it's women's fault, because women are the ones who put a price tag on sex. So it's funny how they, kind of shoot themselves in the foot trying to make this misogynistic scene where oh, he's got all these women and he's breeding them. That's what Genghis Khan did. I mean, yes, men do these things, right? But powerful men in history do these things. But again, why? It's like, because when men get power, they want what they could never get when they didn't have power, which is women. So it just stands to reason that this is the way women are. So but it's sort of trying to, I guess there's a subtle jab at men in power there. This Immortal Joe guy obviously is an evil bad guy, and yes, there's corruption in the world, and yes, there's evil bad guys out there, and that is what it is. Yes, there's evil men out there. There's men who use their power and influence to have harems of women, etc., and that's just because we live in a dark world, and that's yes, that's on men. That's on these men who are doing it. But again, it's something that men try to aspire to do and try to aspire to be, because it's something that's not accessible. Women are very difficult to get for men who don't have anything, for men who don't have wealth and means and success. And when you start getting these things, then all of a sudden women start coming, women start sniffing around you. Oh, here's a guy who's successful, right? So it's just, it's exploitative, but it's exploitative of their nature, and then you got to wonder, why is their nature like that? But anyway, so it shows this scene. He's breeding these women. If you watch the first one, Fury Road, or I should say the prequel, not the old Mad Max series, but the prequel, which is Fury Road, with an older Furiosa, I believe, played by Charlize Theron, and forget that other guy's name. But he's in there, and then you see what Immortal Joe was trying to do. She was trying to breed these women, and so it shows this, and which is kind of a subtle dig at men. Again, men who just use women as incubators, men who just have harems of women, blah blah blah. So that's a feminist undertone there. And then moving on, you've got the heroine. The whole theme is that she's the hero, and she's doing all this killing, and instead of a guy who's the hero and who's beating all the bad guys, it's a woman who's doing it. So okay, I mean, is it believable? It's not believable when men do it, so why would it be believable when a woman does it? It doesn't make any sense. It's just Hollywood. So there's a little bit of a feminist undertone there, and a feminist theme, in the sense that, oh, okay, here's a woman who's doing it now, and women are powerful now too, and then of course she shaves her head, which is symbolic of a lot of young feminists today who shave their head because they don't want to be in submission to men. So it's symbolic, okay, and then it goes on, and then you have this horrible, sick ending, which you got this bad guy, I forget his name, Dementor or something, I forget his name, played by what's his face, the guy who played Thor, I forget his name, but anyway, he actually did pretty good in this movie. He plays a pretty good bad guy, pretty believable. I mean, I like the scenes with him in it the best. But anyway, so he's the guy who really killed her mom, and he's just a guy who's wreaking havoc, and he actually has some decent lines in there as far as existentialism, and a guy who's just doing really bad things because he lives in a bad world. And it's an interesting, he's actually he has more depth than she does. She's just trying to get back to her little Shangri-La, her little liberal paradise or whatever. Obviously probably the guys who come in are the fascists or whatever, the guys who attack her or whatever. They're the warmongering fascist oppressors, the colonizers, if you will, whatever. All these like little subtle undertones. But anyway, so she finally defeats the bad guy, and then instead of just killing him, he does this like little speech where he's like, oh, do it, kill me or whatever, and I'll be, it'll all be over. And then she does this even worse thing where she turns him into an incubator or something, and it's just this sick, twisted. If you really follow feminist pages and feminist communities or whatever, there's tiers to how sick they get. TIERS, tears. There's tiers to how sick they get, but they can get so sick where they say things like, we don't need men, we just need their sperm, so we just need to turn them into incubators, or incubators is not the right word. I think incubators are for women, but we just need to turn them into like, sperm receptacle, sperm, just pump out sperm for us. That's all we need them for, and it's just bitter women who just, have no luck with men because they have no personality, or because they're just terrible, have bad characters, or they're totally degenerate and immoral. This is what super radical feminists, that's the kind of people they are, right? And so she turns him into this like, at the very end, she turns him into this like, I don't even know. She keeps him alive, and he's feeding on this tree's feeding off him. Some weird, sick, occult crap, where they keep people, I'm sure they keep people, they know how to keep people alive and just in constant pain and just sick shit, These things are bleeding over, I mean, the stuff that really goes on in the underbelly of Hollywood is just so sick. Just so sick, and it bleeds into the films. And they have this thing, the occult do this thing where, like, as long as they're telling us what they're doing, it's somehow they're absolved of doing it. And this is why predictive programming is a thing. Somehow, if they tell us what they're doing, of course they don't come out and tell us what they're doing, but they hide it, and they quote unquote tell us in secretive, subtle, hinting ways, like, predictive programming of like 9/11 and all this weird shit that they did. If you go look at like The Simpsons, The Simpsons magazine with Bart Simpson, it says 9/11, and there's I think there's a couple other Simpsons ones where they did some predictive programming. Of course, the creator of The Simpsons, Matt Groening, is which is a crazy last name, but he's a Mason. And I think, Springfield is in St. Louis. Springfield, from The Simpsons, is in St. Louis. And St. Louis, Missouri is a big Freemason city. Really big a lot of Freemasons are there for some reason. But Freemasons are the ones behind the occult. That, they're the ones who are attached to the Skull and Bones, who are attached to the Illuminati, or attached to all these cabals of the people who start wars and just sick shit, right? The people who were at Bohemian Grove, it's all attached, right? They're all part of the club, whether these ones call themselves Freemasons or these ones call themselves whomevers or whatever sect they belong to, they're all part of this conglomerate, otherwise known as the Illuminati. These people who think they're really illumined and rule over us, common people, us common folk or whatever. But all the presidents are part of it. They're all related. Every president's related to each other. It's a big club and you ain't in it. Just like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. But anyways, man, Furiosa, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I take away from it, is that it's just a goofy little movie that trying to uplift, trying to subtly introduce the female heroine, which is not, I don't have any problem with the female heroine per se. Cool. Make it. I enjoyed Aliens with Sigourney Weaver. I thought that was cool. There's not a lot of them. There's not a lot of movies out there where the female is the, what's the Sharon Stone, The Quick and the Dead. That's one that I can think of off the top of my head. There's not a lot. There's a few that I enjoy though. The Quick and the Dead was good. Aliens was good. As far as movies are concerned, I don't endorse horror movies or gross, grotesque things. I don't even like watching movies anymore, really, because they're just so disgusting with all the gore, and it's just sick, man. It's programming. You watch that stuff, and then you just feel sick, and you got these images in your head, and we're not, as humans, we're not supposed to see that shit. We're not supposed to subject ourselves to stuff like that. It's sick, man. It really is. We people need God. We need God. The world needs God. We need peace. We need love. We need kindness. We don't need to watch this horrible junk, But every once in a while, I'll sit down and subject myself to something, and a lot of times I regret that I did. A lot of times I'll turn it off and just watch, because it's just like, when I was younger, I just watched movies like crazy when I was younger, but now I just. I like to read the Bible. I like to just be peaceful. I don't like to subject my mind to sick images and sick, subtle, satanic programming. Let's just keep that shit away from me, man. I don't need that. But yeah, that's what I think about that movie. Just a lot of subtle satanic stuff, a lot of occult stuff. And you'll find that in movies. You'll find that in movies. There's a lot of occult stuff in movies, hidden in plain sight. Subtle, secret hints at things. It's all throughout Hollywood. It always has been, to some degree. You can study this stuff, but it's just, that's what I think of it. It's just feminist It's just feminist, social programming, subliminal programming. It's just. Again, it's not that I don't think a female couldn't be a lead character or couldn't do a good movie. There's been a couple. There's been a few. There's that movie Hannah. I don't know who the star is, but I forget the guy who's supposed to be her father. It was a cool movie, Hannah. There's some cool movies that have females in them. This movie called Adrenaline, I think, with Natasha Kinski. That was a cool movie. Christopher Lambert and Natasha Kinski. Her name was Natasha Kinski. I can't remember. She was in that movie Species, but I think that movie's called Adrenaline. Anyways, there's some cool movies. I've seen way too many movies, man. But there's some cool movies. So it's not that I'm against a female lead. It's that you can see it's just the subtle, and people are getting, I don't know if people are getting dumber, or if they think we're getting dumber, or if we're just getting just dumbed down in general as a society, but they're not really even very subtle about it anymore. It's just pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious that they're trying to, she shaves her head, right? She does this horrible vengeance. It's just like, it's obvious. It's feminist crap, feminist propaganda. And the reason why Hollywood loves feminism and they pump it into the ether is because it ruins society. It ruins families. It causes women to be promiscuous. They want that. It's degenerate. It has very insidious effects on people, or on women. It turns them into sexual, hypersexual beings. Takes away morality, takes away their reason for, and the reason why is because it dethrones men. It dethrones men as it lies and tells young women that men are their enemy, that men are not there to help them and provide and protect for them and take care of them and love them as husbands. It tells them that men are just out to get them, that men are oppressors, and there's nothing more insidious than that. It's the same thing as saying God is evil. It's the same, Satan is always working. He's working in these ways to convince people that righteousness is evil, to convince people that, God is out to get them, or men are out to get them. And so, what does that do? what's the effect of that? It causes rebellion. It causes, a disorder, right? It's social conditioning. That's all it is. Social programming. It just turns people against things that God has created. God created marriage between a man and a woman to be sanctified and to be pure and righteous, and that's what feminism does. Is it turns that upside down? It turns it on its head. It puts the woman first. It puts the woman against the man, causes her to rebel, causes her to go be immoral, have abortions, all this sick stuff that comes from it. And that's Satan's work. It's just social programming. So yeah, it's just part of that, and Hollywood is just steeped in that. Hollywood is just, like I said, they love feminism, they love degeneracy. This is why they all hate anything that is even remotely, you know, related to God, right? They hate marriage. They hate, and none of them, they get married, and Hollywood celebs, they get married, and none of them can stay married. They always get divorced. Invariably, they're always divorcing each other because you know they're not faithful or whatever. But it's just for whatever reason they're not, anyway. These people, I remember in the 90s we used to think celebrities were like gods or something. Almost, it was like, they're the leaders of society, they're the archetypes of what we should be. That's why they call them stars. That's why they call them idols, because we idolize them. And then they just turn out to be sick people. They turn out to be immoral, and it's probably way worse than anybody even knows just how sick and degenerate the depths of Hollywood can be. And maybe there's some of them that are good and righteous, but it's probably few and far between. And the good excuse me, and the good and righteous ones probably can't find much work. It's a big club, man. You ain't in it. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it there, guys. That's what I think about that movie. It's not a horrible movie as far as action and adventure and visual effects are concerned. Pretty crappy plot. It's not a crappy plot, but it's not a great plot either. It's just, it's a pretty basic plot. Little basic revenge story, nothing crazy, nothing super interesting, and then just all this feminist crap, all these feminist undertones, all these occult undertones. Not great, man. Anyways, appreciate you listening. Peace.